Thank you for tuning in to Stories in Your Hands with Cynthia Clark, the podcast about creating the life you want, regardless of your story. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to go to find long lasting love using the most innovative and accurate algorithm based in scientific palmistry. Tired of superficial connections? Start your free Soulmate Connection membership today at loveinyourhands.com. Now here's your host, Cynthia Clark, palm reading consultant and compatibility expert. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Cynthia Clark and I am excited to talk about gratitude. Gratitude is, in my opinion, the doorway that opens us to receiving. So when we're not in a state of gratitude, we actually can block ourselves in so many ways, not just in our happiness, but also in our prosperity and in our relationships. I mean, it's so important. So anyway, I wanted to just point out a little bit of palm reading because that's how I like to start out the show. And let's take a quick look at your index finger, which is also known as your Jupiter finger. Okay, Jupiter, by the way, is how you look at yourself. And if you look at the phalanges, these are the little sections of finger. The upper section of your index finger is what we call your zone of ideals. And so when you think about, like, especially if this is a big section, you're going to be more of a spiritual person, really tuned in to, all of that stuff. But we want to just make sure that it's not blocked. Okay, so if you're blocking yourself to gratitude, this would be maybe one section of your hand to check on. So if you have any horizontal lines running through this upper section of your zone of ideals, then chances are you are blocking yourself from receiving all that you can receive. So anyway, just take a look at that. And of course, let's take a second to just go into gratitude right now. So I want you just to think about something, anything that you're grateful for right at this very moment. And I'm grateful for so many things personally, but I want all of you just to think of that one thing that just makes you smile and be happy that you're here. And doesn't that feel good? It just puts us into such a great space. So that leads me into our guest for today. I'm very excited to bring on Justin Womack. He is a digital marketing specialist, copywriter, speaker, and the co-host of Marketing Geeks, a top 10 podcast on Apple Podcasts in the category of business marketing. He is the owner of JMac Media and started his own business after a decade of traditional employment where he felt emotionally bankrupt and found himself building the dreams of others before his own. So thank you, Justin, so much for coming on the show. This is really exciting.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start out with a little bit of your backstory because you have so many challenges that you've overcome, and it's like, wow, your story is just really interesting. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go very, very condensed here, but I talk a lot about how I went from employee to entrepreneur also, and that whole journey started with me kind of losing touch with, I think, who I was very quick at a pretty young age, where I decided that I was going to follow like the trajectory of what I thought was the way I was supposed to go, and that was kind of go to college, get a job, and just everything's going to fall into place. And unfortunately, it didn't work for me. And so after going to college and graduating, I ended up getting a job in what was the highest offer that was made to me. It was in the insurance industry. And I worked in insurance for 7 years. And I can tell you that within about a month of working in corporate America, I was feeling extraordinarily bankrupt emotionally. And I was just lost. I felt like I had lost like purpose in my life. I felt like there was like I was trapped in this hamster wheel of life. And I didn't know, I stopped like looking forward to the future because I felt like I was just going to be trapped here forever. Eventually, just after so many different things, and there were other events in my life, which I'm not going to have time to talk about, I stepped aside from that and I stumbled into kind of the seminar industry. And so I had been kind of a seeker, and I was seeking kind of ways of feeling better about myself and developing, improving my skill sets. Always been a lifelong learner. And I was attracted to, initially, Tony Robbins was someone I was really attracted to and his material, but I came into a seminar that taught the foundations of what Tony teaches, which is NLP, or neuro linguistic programming. And I came to a seminar and was learning kind of these materials. And after attending that seminar, one of the people, actually a guest speaker at that seminar, gave me the opportunity to work for him within a few months. I started working on the back end of his business, and I found an industry that I really loved in the coaching, business, speaker, expert area. And I was learning things, like skills that have come into my business today, like copywriting, like marketing, Infusionsoft, all these different skills that are now relevant for me. But again, I was working for somebody else. It was a very successful entrepreneur, and I was spending 15-hour days, sometimes more, building his dream and not my own. And while all this happened, um, for whatever reason, I got involved in a major car accident while I was working on the back end of this business. And it wasn't just any average car accident. I actually rolled my car that went over through a guardrail, landed vertically, knocking me unconscious, and my car ended up upside down into a creek bed where I was submerged underwater in dirty water. And so I was essentially drowning, um, waiting to die, basically, except that there was a witness that saw this all happening, and somebody actually jumped out of their car, dove in after me, and after first coming up and getting the door open, I was still in my seatbelt, unconscious in the car. He was unable to get me out. He yelled out to other people that were nearby if anyone had a knife. Nobody did, and he told me that, because I still talk to him to this day. I've met with him several times. He told me that he doesn't remember what happened next. He felt so traumatized because he knew that if he didn't go in there and get me out, I was going to die, which is amazing that somebody would feel that for somebody else that they don't even know.
Mm.
And he went back down, came back up somehow, doesn't remember how he did it to this day. But I came up and he was able to get me to the shore. And at the shore was actually an off-duty lifeguard, happened to be there as well. So like the kind of serendipity and synchronicity of all this was pretty incredible. That there was, first of all, there was somebody willing to like risk their life, dive in after somebody they don't know, and somebody of a decent size that could move a guy like me who's 6'5", around 250 pounds at the time,
Mm.
um, to do that. And so they were able to keep me alive long enough for the ambulance to come get me. But that was just the beginning of my journey. It was a 2-month stay in the ICU. And had it just been like a near drowning, it would have been a short stay. But because I had aspirated, meaning that I breathed in the dirty water into my lungs, I had developed a condition called ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress syndrome, where your lungs basically harden to cardboard. And I had what's called Aspergillus pneumonia. So I had a fungus that's normally harmless, but when it's growing in your lungs, it becomes harmful. Um,
Mm.
and so I had Aspergillus growing on my lungs, and so they were forced to put me into a medical coma. And for 30 days, I underwent procedure after procedure. They actually had to scrape fungus off of my lungs, and and then when they finally woke me up, they didn't know if I would have brain function. So my wife and my family were there. We weren't married yet at the time, but we've been married since. We're married now. And miraculously, they were able to wake me up. And I went through a long, arduous journey to get back where I am today. But it was humbling, to say the least, because I woke up in that hospital bed after 30 days in a medical coma, unable to move. I had 5 chest tubes pumping sediment out of me. I had a trach, so I couldn't speak for those 30 days, and meaning that I had like in my throat helping me to breathe.
Mm.
And it was, I will tell you that being in a hospital bed like that every day felt like a week, and it gave me a lot of time to reflect on things and reflect on my life. And it was like, at the time, it was one of the most humbling things I've ever been through, because I felt completely and utterly at the mercy of outside forces. Um, and it also gave me perspective on things like the balance between Eastern and Western medicine, because at the time of the accident, I had been working in the seminar industry. I'd been hanging out with a lot of kind of Eastern healers, and this forced me to kind of marry the two together. And I realized how important that they both need to be around. I
Hmm.
needed Western medicine to survive, but I also needed Eastern medicine to help me rebuild and heal my body after the accident, in terms of like,
Hmm.
drinking healthy juices and things like that.
Right.
Um,
And I love that concept because I'm one of those people too. I do a lot of my own energy work and healing and different services like that. But yeah, sometimes you do need to go get your surgery and have a doctor help you out. And both are very useful and valid. So yeah, it's
100%.
yeah,
And so,
it's good to hear your story about that, just to, you know, how it worked for you. That's great.
yeah, and it's something I, had. I mean, I didn't have a choice in the matter because I was in a medical coma, but it was like,
Mm.
it was just something I think I needed to see. And it just kind of proved that to me. And it's funny because I've had a few people that were also in the same boat that kind of came back and kind of had that same realization after hearing my story, that yes, there is still need for a balance there. So and maybe for them it's a higher percentage of Eastern than Western, but there are some things that cannot be healed through Eastern medicine alone, that you're going to need additional help through.
Mhm.
But again, like as far as the emotional side goes, it was just incredible on so many different levels, to get like that. First of all, to I didn't know if I'd ever be able to walk again, if I'd ever be able to talk the same way, because I couldn't talk when I had the trach, and for some reason I had pictured myself like needing a voice box or something.
Oh no.
um, yeah, I didn't know. I mean, the doctors didn't know what kind of quality of life I would have when I got back out. Uh, ARDS is a very, very dangerous disease that not many people survive, let alone come back at the level that I've been able to come back at.
Mm.
and and so there was a lot of unknowns. But so it kind of like, yeah, there were times when, I've never been that religious, but there were times when I would be praying to a God that I didn't fully understand, like, please give me a second chance for this, I know I can do better.
Mhm.
And and I think a lot of people get to that place when they're desperate, and it's, whether they're religious or not, that's I think that tends to happen a lot.
Yeah,
um
sure. And then you were probably really grateful to all those people who were right there when
well,
you had the accident. And and
beyond, but not just those people, because it was like I was overwhelmed by the amount of support that I got from people I hadn't talked to for 10 years.
mm,
Because yeah, the people that were there, I mean, that was incredible. And I to this day I still see the person that physically rescued me. We go visit him, once a year or more if we can. Because not only did he rescue me, but now I've been able to get married to my wife, who was there by my side the entire time during this accident, and we've had a child together. And so because of him, we have a 1-year old now, which is, he wouldn't he wouldn't be here without him. So in a lot of ways, he's kind
yeah,
of a godfather in that regard. Um,
for sure.
but also the people like this, my friends from high school that I hadn't talked to in a while, did like a GoFundMe for me, and the level of support was just so overwhelming and emotional while I was in my hospital bed. I couldn't believe that there were people that, we hadn't communicated in so long, that were just coming and offering support in the way that they could.
Mm.
And like, there were prayer circle, like my great aunt had started prayer circles, and all these people were doing like prayer circles and things like that. And it was just, it was overwhelming to see like how many lives I had been able to touch, at least in some way.
Mhm.
And to see that these are people supporting me, and even the ones that came out and flew out to see me too while I was in the hospital bed, that meant so much. For somebody, when you can't, I mean, there's nothing like having somebody visit you, even though I couldn't talk to them, just like holding their hand and feeling their support was absolutely incredible. So it left me in a place of kind of like love and, again, humility. And it also gave me kind of permission that with the next chapter of my life was something that I could do differently. And
Mm.
so like I was no longer afraid to go take the risks of like starting a business, for instance. One of the things that I had resisted because I think I had been programmed with like my mom's voice, which was like security first, financial security first, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And
Well,
even though I had a lot of entrepreneurs in my lineage, I think that was the loudest voice though, and that was preventing me from kind of doing this at a younger age.
yeah, so this is something that I believe, and just tell me if you agree or not with this. Um, and so when people have like a near death experience like you've had, do you feel like it is a way for the universe to kind of get your attention so that you can have a redirect in your life? Do you feel like that is the purpose of having experiences like that?
I do, and it's funny that you use those words. One of the people that visited me described my accident as a soul redirection, and it's kind of like one that resonated with me at the time, and basically almost the same words you just used right there. um, but yes, because I think when you fall off your path, the universe is going to gently nudge you, and I probably had several gentle nudges that I didn't respond to and didn't listen to, and eventually there's going to be one that's a lot stronger of a nudge.
Mhm.
And for me, fortunately, I was able to survive this and to take this opportunity to try something different. And it's from an internal happiness standpoint and from satisfaction with where I am in life, like it's night and day from before the accident to where I am now, where I don't pretend to be like financially killing it or anything. I mean, I do well, and I'm actually doing better than I did as an employee at any point during my life when I worked for corporate America. So I did okay, but but from a happiness standpoint, it's not even related to that. It's not about the money. It's about like for me, like my greatest value is my time freedom and my ability to not be at the whim of somebody else's schedule.
Mhm.
So for me to control my own schedule and for me to have that power has been more important than anything else for me as in terms of like my internal satisfaction and happiness.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like I think there is something to be said about entrepreneurs having some of this kind of in our DNA, because
Yeah.
as when I worked for other people, I mean I was an effective employee at times, and there were times when I was also an ineffective employee. Um, but I was miserable and I hated it,
Mhm.
and so like there's no we don't I think you don't need to waste your life doing something you hate. And that's kind of what's been amazing for me, is that I actually get to live my life doing something I love and actually looking forward to the future and not living for weekends. I get to live like every day is its own experience, which is
Yes.
what I truly appreciate about my new life now.
Here, here. I'm right there with you. I love every single day of my life. And yeah, if you're not in that space, it's like, well, maybe you should start thinking about it. And what do you like about your life and what do you not like about your life? And again, that's kind of where the whole topic of gratitude comes in. It's like, okay, well, what can I be grateful for that's existing in my life right now? And then it also helps you realize, okay, well, maybe something does need to change. And a lot of times, do you feel like people maybe come into the mode of feeling like they can't do changes or they can't make a change, or they feel like they're just really stuck?
All the time. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are that way, and it's funny because usually everybody outside of that person, and I'm sure there were people for me when I was stuck, they all see the potential. They all see like we don't see what you see, kind of thing. Like when you're talking to that person, we don't see why you think that you're stuck. um so I think we get into this like tunnel vision, and I think I was in that tunnel vision mode for a long time, where I only knew one way, and I was and stepping outside of that was stepping outside of my comfort zone and stepping outside of the known realm of my existence. So it's a lot. I think because you have to kind of risk like your ego in some senses by stepping outside of it, and trying something entirely new and knowing that there's a good chance you could fail and fall on your face. And so I think for a lot of people, it's really a challenging thing to get to the point where they're willing and able to risk that, almost like a sense of identity that they have developed over time, by making that change. And there's also like these excuses that come up that literally make no sense. Like I remember when I first started my business, I was afraid to like tell people I was starting my business, even because I think I was still trapped in that identity sense. And like I had imagined like talking to even like family members that I don't even talk to that much, and like they're thinking that they would look down on me for it for some reason. And it was like completely irrational. And now that it's happened, it even feels more irrational than it was then. So it's amazing how we can convince ourselves of stories that, of why we can't do something, that are, it was just lies. They were just complete lies. And as I've forced myself to take action, I've just exposed them as what they are, which is they were just lies. They were just lies holding me into a pattern of inaction.
Yeah, right. So it's it feels like it's a good thing to maybe just go to somebody who is sort of a neutral third party, or somebody who has more objectivity, because yeah, we're kind of stuck in our soup, so to speak.
Mhm.
So we can't always see things.
Yeah.
Seeing ourselves, I think sometimes is the hardest thing. And
And it's an uphill journey. I mean, it wasn't easy. Like even though I had this accident, I also still needed to work on myself, and I still attended seminars and coaching and personal growth work even after the accident that also were very critical for me. Um, for instance, one of the things that I think actually helped change me more, in a lot of ways, was I took a public speaking workshop, which was NLP based, but it was very experiential, where we worked with small groups and practiced speaking constantly with positive feedback, and implementing these tools. And I think like when I was able to kind of make an improvement, not fully overcome, but make an improvement in my fear of public speaking, that also helped to really change my life, because I'm an introvert by nature, but I'm one that's also wishes he was an extrovert in a lot of ways. I've always like wanted to feel more extroverted, but I tend to be more introverted naturally. So like kind of getting a hold on like certain skill sets like public speaking and things like that really, really have helped me develop professionally.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, hold up your hand really quick for me. Let me just
Right
take
or left, does it matter?
hold up your right hand. I'm just curious about a marker. Okay, hold it back a little bit so I can see the whole, all the fingers too. Okay, yeah, this is where it's coming from. Your lower Apollo, like your ring finger, that lower section is like your presentation part of your hand, and it's actually quite small. So yeah, this is the part of your hand that says, "Look at me," and I'm happy to be out there in front of the spotlight and on stage. And I'm also small in that section, so you and I have something in common. But this is really where kind of that stage fright comes in, and so that's kind of interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's one area where you can tell like how easy is it for somebody to get up there and talk in front of a lot of people.
interesting. But it's such a weird thing for me, because I feel like I've had like this like sense of shyness in a lot of ways, but it was something that I resented. So I
Yeah,
don't know how many people out there that have experienced that, but like you are shy, and it's like almost like a physiological thing that causes it. Um and I hated that. There's something I hated about myself. So it's like, yeah, that's what drew me to personal growth and all this stuff too, is that I wanted to find a way around it and find a way where I could become intentionally extroverted at times. And then afterwards, I can go recuperate for a few days and hide as an introvert or whatever.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's kind of what I love about podcasting too. It's like you're comfortable at home and you can do it, and yet you're reaching a lot of people. So for I think
mhm.
for us introverted people, it's a good way to communicate, and it's a little more comfortable. So
And I found, for whatever reason, and this is funny because I tell this to some people, now that I've gotten a little bit better at public speaking, I'm more comfortable on stage speaking than I am like at a small dinner or something sometimes.
Yeah, well, that just goes to show all the practice and hard work you put in really does
Mhm.
pay off. And yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your take on modern gratitude. I definitely want to hear more about like how can we bring in more gratitude every day to our lives and bring it into the real world.
Well, I think it's one of the things that's kind of missing, and as you know, my journey now is in digital marketing is kind of where I've moved my business to now. And what I see a gap in marketing right now is it's not even necessarily marketing, but it's also in customer appreciation. It's how we value the people that drive our business, because our business is the lifeblood of our business is our customers. And there's a saying in marketing that there's three groups of people you could sell to, and the easiest group of people that you can ever sell to in your business are existing customers. So your existing customers are your hot market. Those are the people that you could sell more to, and that should be your number one go-to. Your second easiest would be your past customers that are no longer doing business with you, and your third would be cold traffic, people that are unfamiliar with you and don't know much about your brand. Those are the hardest people to sell to. Most people spend most of their marketing time focused on the cold traffic and always trying to fill their pipeline with new people they've never met before. Instead of that, I'm now of the mindset that we need to be nurturing the people that have worked for us and be showing gratitude and appreciation for those that have worked with us before. And there's so many benefits that come from that that we're all leaving on the table. So, for instance, when I used to go to chamber events when I first started my business, and I've come to realize that it's not necessarily my ideal target market. So I don't spend as much time there anymore. But when I did, a question that's often asked is like, where does the majority of your business come from? And the answer invariably is word of mouth. So most businesses will say that 90% of their business comes from word of mouth marketing. But when you ask those same people, do you have a system that cultivates word of mouth referrals? Or do you have a system that's going to help you create more word of mouth referrals? Almost all of them will also say, well, they'll be silent with crickets, and well, they won't have an answer to that.
Mhm.
So, so one of the things I've been teaching, because even when I was in my hospital bed, like some of the things that I appreciated most were like getting cards from people, getting personal touches. So letting people know that they cared, and it meant a lot. And sometimes I think we forget like how much it actually does mean.
Yeah.
So there's systems out there that can kind of help you to do this and help you to show your appreciation for the people that are driving your business, especially for the people that are giving you referrals. Because if you're getting referrals from people, those people are so valuable to your business, and if you're not taking care of them, you're risking a huge portion of your business by not doing it, because there's somebody out there that is willing to take care of them. So one of the sayings, this comes from a company called Digital Marketer, and from Ryan Dice, I believe is the one that came up with it. He says that he or she who is willing to spend the most money to acquire a customer will always win in business. But to that, I add that he or she who is willing to spend the most to keep a customer or client is also going to win. And so I advocate actually spending money to take care of the people that are taking care of you. And
Mm.
so, one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about on your show is the idea that there's softwares out there now where you can send out personalized cards and gifts to people that show them that you care, and do so in a way that is easy to manage and can be done. A lot of them can be sent at the same time, but all of them personalized to the person that you're sending to.
Mm.
So for instance, like when I have people, I have a podcast too. It's called Marketing Geeks, and when I have a guest on my show now, um, to thank them for spending the time for being on my show, I will send them a card um, that's personalized to them, along with a mug with the Marketing Geeks logo on it, but on the back end of it, it has that person's name. And I've been able to create a system for sending that so that it goes out really easily. But it also just shows that little something extra, and it adds to that experience, because people, more than anything, people value experiences. And people remember these kind of things, where you could have the greatest time on a podcast, but if there's not like a symbol or some sort of symbolic thing to remember it by, it's easy to also forget about it. And so when I'm able to provide a gift, and I don't always brand it with my logo, like in the podcast example I do, but if it's a referral partner, I might send them something with their logo on it and their name on it, and I send it to them because I know that even though I don't have any of this branded to me, when every time they use it to drink their coffee, to drink their drink, they're going to think about me, and it's going to help me stay top of mind. And it's also something that makes them feel special. They're going to want to show it to everybody else. And it's a way of spreading gratitude, and it's also a way of driving reciprocity. Um, so I see it as like kind of a way of being a win-win for everybody, where we're rewarding the people that reward us, but they're also more likely in turn to continue referring us business because we took care of them. Is that making sense?
It makes perfect sense because I'm just thinking about people who have sent me cards over the years. I keep every single one of those cards.
Yep.
And if I get a good success story of somebody whose life that I helped through their palm reading, that is what drives me as a person to keep doing what I'm doing. And it's such a great confirmation too that it's like, okay, I'm not just wasting my time. Like this stuff really has value. Because sometimes
Exactly.
we're out there, especially when we work over the internet, we don't always hear back from our customers, especially if they're happy, because
Hmm.
it's like, okay, yeah, you solved my problem. Great, I'm done, which is terrific. But if they actually took the time to send out a card, like a physical card, I keep every single one of those. So I totally get that there's something special about a tangible physical item that can't really be replaced. I mean, it's great to get an email or whatever, but email is so, it's so easy just to delete it or move it or lose it. You know what I mean? Like we have like thousands of emails that come in. But to have that like personal, tangible touch, like that is worth so much.
It's funny you mentioned email because one of the things that I will say is, yeah, if you send an email, there's probably like a 20 to 30% chance that the person receiving it opens it. But if you send a physical card, it probably goes up a bit, but it's still not guaranteed they're going to open a physical card. It's much more likely. But if you send a card and a gift, like a coffee mug, and it comes in a package, I will tell you that if you send a package, there is a 100% chance that it's going to get opened.
Yeah.
So if you want to get somebody's attention, you send them a package of some kind, and it's guaranteed to be opened. Um, and so that's one of the, I mean, yeah, because email marketing these days, we're all flooded with so much junk, so much spam that it's easy to get lost. Even if it's something we want, it can get lost because there's so much other stuff vying for our attention that distracts us and makes us miss it.
Mm.
Um, and so one of the trends in marketing right now is we're moving towards more personalization. And I was saying earlier, we're moving away from quantity, I think, in marketing and more towards quality. And and that goes with email marketing too, because uh, these softwares are getting smarter. And if you send 10,000 emails and only 1,000 people open them, like 10%, the softwares are now starting to recognize this, and they're more likely to put you in junk and spam, which if you have that kind of open rate, you probably belong there. And that's kind of what's happening is there everything's getting a little bit more intelligent, and the people that are going to be winning in the future are the people that are going to be spending the time to be more personal, taking care to learn more about their customers, understanding them, and doing this. So this is a tool that kind of makes it easy. And so what I'm promoting, and let me just give a little how people can check this out if they're interested in it. It's a
Yeah.
software called Banner Season. So BANNER Season, SEACSON
Mhm.
.com. You can go there and you can create a free account you need an invitation code. So the invitation code would be START. So just START. Um, and it's a software where you pay as you use it. So you don't have to, there's no requirement. You're going to be required to pay to actually send something because you're paying for that object to go out, but there's no monthly requirements. There's no minimums. And you're able to actually, again, reward the people that take care of your business by sending them cards and gifts to prove that you care. And if you have people like you mentioned, Cynthia, that have had huge success and then they just stop talking to you because you solved their problem, like you're missing a huge opportunity there. Because if you just send a card and remind them, like, hey, by the way, like I've loved working with you. Maybe have a little footnote at the bottom that says something like, if you know anyone that would also benefit from my service, I would really appreciate a referral. Those kind of things. Like sometimes that's all they need. And then they'll start reaching out and sending people because like, oh yeah, I forgot. And that's all it was. So yeah, if there's not like some sort of follow-up system in place, that's a huge opportunity. And on top of that, they maybe they're willing to give you a testimonial and put that on your website. And those testimonials sometimes are some of the biggest drivers of getting more sales. I mean, in marketing, I think the element of social proof and like hearing real stories of real people that had success with what you're offering are some of the biggest drivers of other people buying your products.
Yeah.
So there's just so many things that we're leaving on the table if we're not taking care of these people.
Yeah. Well, you've definitely opened my eyes to the whole gratitude and gift giving, and I actually love giving gifts. I mean, one of the things that I love to do is I roast my own coffee. And it's because I used to own a restaurant, and I actually got my start at Starbucks over at the Salt Lake International Airport. And now I'm just kind of a coffee fanatic is one of the things I love to do. And I just roasted some Ethiopia beans this morning before I got on the call with you. And it's just one of those things that I love. There's something about like that fresh roast and taste, and it's so special. So I was just thinking, I wonder.
Well, to that point, like I think Banner Season is a software that makes it easier to send to a lot of people, and it just makes the process simpler. But if you have something like what you're doing, and you're able to take the time to handwrite a note and send like home roasted coffee beans to clients or things like that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, and that'll be just as effective. This is just a tool that's going to help you save some time in the process, and especially for the businesses that have like a ton of clients where that's kind of like not something that would be scalable to do for everybody.
Yeah, sure. If I have
So
like
this
one
is
or two to send out, that would be cool. But this takes it to a level where I could actually get it out to hundreds or even thousands of people if I needed to.
Yeah, and what's also nice is this is fully white labeled, meaning that there's no branding for Banner Season. It just has, so if you send it, it's just be from you. There'll be no branding back to the company that sends it, which I really appreciate. So there's no,
really cool.
there's nothing that ties it back to this company is sending it. So it looks like it's just 100% from you, nothing else.
Wow, that's so terrific. That's amazing. I just love that idea.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's been cool in my business. When I was in my hospital bed, I appreciated gifts. I appreciated cards. Those are the things that made me feel special when I needed them. And you never know how somebody is, like what mood they're in. And sometimes you can make somebody's day just by sending something like this too. And you don't know. So these are the kind of things that can really make somebody feel special. And if you catch somebody on the right day and make them feel super special, they might remember that for life.
Yeah, for sure. That makes perfect sense. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show today. Also, I just wanted to ask, how do people reach you if they want to work with you personally?
I think the easiest way would be to go to my website. So if you go to jmackmedia.com, that's JMACK. So jmackmedia.com. There's a spot there where you could book a 10-minute call with me. That's the easiest way to do that. Or if you just go there, you can also fill out a web form if you have a question, and then I will get back to you and I can answer that question. So you can just go there, click on the contact button, and fill out a question, and we can communicate that way as well. So whatever is most convenient for you.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you so much again, and I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for these ideas and this whole concept. It's just awesome. So, and I'm also thankful to you listeners for tuning in, and remember to live the life you want, regardless of your story. You can do this. You can absolutely do this. So have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you again soon. Thank you for listening to Stories in Your Hands. Please rate, review, and subscribe to show your support. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to find the secret ingredients to your soulmate. Start your free Soulmate Connection membership today using the most innovative and accurate algorithm to match you to potential long-lasting love, all at loveinyourhands.com.